Hi, welcome to week 1 of Intro to Grad Studies. This week we are going to be focusing on exploring the world of business and economics. So I'm excited for you guys to be introduced to this topic. So let's get started. The changing world of business. Our economy continues to adapt and change to meet the needs of the ever-changing world. In any time of our lives right now, it is more obvious that businesses have to have learned to adapt. Over the past several months, we have seen many businesses have to adapt because of COVID-19 and what it has done to the way businesses operate in our economy in general. But our economic system still provides an amazing amount of freedom that allows businesses that range in sizes of being a small business owner to gigantic businesses like Google and Amazon. All of them have to adapt to the changing business environment. So within certain limits imposed mainly to ensure public safety, the owners of businesses can produce any legal good or services that they choose and attempt to sell it at a price that they set. This system of business in which individuals decide what to produce, how to produce it, and at what price to sell it at is called free enterprise. So you might be asking yourself, why study business? Once you have education and knowledge, no one can take that away from you. To begin with, there are many economic benefits to studying business, but I want to focus on 5 benefits for why you should study business. Number 1, for help in choosing your career. This business course will introduce you to a wide array of employment opportunities. One thing to remember as you think about what your ideal career might be is that a person's choice of career is ultimately a reflection of what he or she values and holds most important. Number 2, to be a successful employee. To get a job in your chosen field and to be successful at it, you will have to develop a plan or a roadmap that ensures that you have the skills and knowledge that the job requires. This course, me as your instructor, and all the resources at Newman will help you acquire skills and knowledge that you will need to have a successful career. Number 3, to improve your management skills. To be an effective manager, you must be able to perform 4 basic management functions: planning, organizing, leading and motivating, and controlling. And to successfully perform these management functions, managers must possess 4 very important skills: interpersonal skills, analytic skills, technical skills, and conceptual skills. And throughout the entire MBA program, you will be introduced and taught all of these skills. And number 4, to start your own business. Some people prefer to work for themselves and not for somebody else, and they choose to open their own business. To be successful, a business owner must possess many of the same skills that successful employees have. It also helps if your small business can provide a product or a service that customers want. Unfortunately, approximately 70% of all small businesses fail within the first 10 years. Typical reasons for businesses' failures include undercapitalization, poor business location, poor customer service, unqualified or untrained employees, fraud, lack of a proper business plan, and failure to seek outside professional help. Number 5, to become a better informed consumer and investor. By studying business, you will become a more fully informed consumer, which means that you're going to be able to make more intelligent buying decisions and spend your money more wisely. This same basic understanding of business will also help you make better decisions as an informed investor. So what is business? Business is the organized effort of individuals to produce and sell for a profit the goods and services that satisfy society's needs. To be successful, a business must be organized, satisfy needs, earn a profit, and be sustainable, be able to keep their doors open for a length of time. So we're going to look at what an organized effort means. For a business to be organized, it must combine 4 different types of resources: material, human, financial, and informational. Material resources include the raw materials used in the manufacturing process, as well as in buildings or machinery. Human resources are the people who furnish their labor to the business in return for wages. The financial resource is the money required to pay your employee, purchase your materials, and generally just keep your business going. Information is the resource that tells managers of the business how effectively all the other resources are being combined and used. Businesses are usually classified in one of 3 types. A manufacturing business processes various materials into tangible goods. Service businesses produce services. Marketing intermediaries buy products from manufacturers and then choose to resell them. Today, many consumers actually prefer to shop online, and we saw that especially in the time of the coronavirus and COVID, just e-line businesses, stocks taking off and just not being able to get Amazon in a timely manner, which was a shock to a lot of us. So an e-business is defined as an organized effort of individuals to produce and sell for a profit the goods and services that satisfy society's needs through the facilities that are available on the internet. Now, it is also important to remember that the ultimate objective of every firm is to satisfy the needs of its customers. When a business understands its customers' needs and works to satisfy those needs, it is generally successful. Business profit. So profit is what remains after all of the business expenses have been deducted from the sales revenue. A negative profit, which results when a firm's expenses are greater than its sales revenue, is called a loss. The term stakeholders is used to describe all the different people or groups who are affected by an organization's policies, decisions, and activities. While stockholders and business owners generally believe that profit is the most important goal of a business, many stakeholders may be just as concerned about a firm's need for social responsibility. And we will be talking about that in Chapter 2 of this class. The profit earned by a business becomes the property of its owners. Profit is the reward business owners receive for producing the goods and services that consumers want, and for assuming the risks of ownership. One of these risks is not being paid. So employers, suppliers, and lenders must always be paid before owners are unpaid. Another risk is losing whatever was invested in the business. We're going to switch now to talk about the 2 different types of economic systems. So when we look at economics, economics is defined as the study of how wealth is created and distributed. By wealth, we mean anything of value. How wealth is distributed simply means who gets what. The way in which people deal with these 2 issues determines the type of economic system or economy that a nation has. Economics is generally studied from 2 different perspectives. Microeconomics, the study of decisions made by individuals and businesses, or macroeconomics, which is the study of a national economy and the global economy. Within our economic systems, we look at our factors of production. So the factors of production are the resources used to provide goods and services, and there are 4 factors. You have land and natural resources, so elements in their natural state that can be used in production, such as crude oil, forest, minerals, land, water, and even air. Labor is the human resources, such as managers and employees. Capital is the money, facilities, equipment, and machines used in the operations of an organization. Entrepreneurship. Now, this is the willingness to take risks and the knowledge and ability to use the other factors of production efficiently. An entrepreneur is a person who risks his own time, effort, and money to start and operate a business. A nation's economic system significantly affects all economic activities of its citizens and organizations. A country's economic system provides answers to the four basic economic questions. What goods and services and how much of each will be produced? How will these goods and services be produced? And for whom will these goods and services be produced? And who controls and owns the major factors of production? We have two different types of economies that we are going to look at. We're going to look at a capitalistic economy and a command economy. So capitalism is an economic system in which individuals own and operate the majority of the businesses that provide goods and services. Adam Smith, in his book, Wealth of Nations, published in 1776, argued that a society's interests are best served when individuals within that society are allowed to pursue their own self-interest. So he created this concept that he coined the invisible hand, which describes how a business owner's personal gain benefits others through the product that is produced or the wages that are paid to the workers, and a nation's economy through gross domestic product, taxes, and exports. Adam Smith's capitalism is based on four fundamental issues. First, the creation of wealth is properly the concern of private individuals and not the government. Second, private individuals must own the resources used to create the wealth, and the owners of the resources should be free to determine how these resources are used. Third, Smith contended that economic freedom ensures the existence of a competitive market that allows both buyers and sellers to enter and exit as they choose. Now, this freedom to enter and leave a market at will has given rise to the term market economy. This is sometimes also referred to as a free market economy. It's an economic system in which businesses and individuals make the decision about what to produce and what to buy, and the market then determines how much is sold and at what price. Finally, in Smith's view, the role of the government is limited to providing defense against foreign enemies, ensuring internal order, furnishing public works and education. And with regard to the economy, the government should only act as a rule maker and an umpire. So Smith believed that each person should be allowed to work towards his or her own economic gain without government interference. The French term laissez-faire describes Smith's system, and it's loosely translated as meaning let them do. When we look at a command economy is an economic system in which the government decides what's going to be produced, how it will be produced, for whom the goods and services will be produced and available, and who owns and controls the major factors of production. There are two types of economic systems that serve as examples of command economies. The first one is socialism. So in a socialist economy, the key industries are owned and operated by the government. Depending on the country, private ownership of smaller businesses is permitted to varying degrees. What to produce and how to produce are determined in accordance with national goals. Communism is the second type. And in a communist economy, almost all economic resources are owned by the government. The basic economic questions are answered through centralized state planning, which also sets prices and wages. Emphasis is placed on the production of goods that the government needs rather than the products that consumers might want. Karl Marx was known as the father of communism. So how do we measure economic performance? One way to measure a nation's economic performance is to assess its productivity. So productivity is the average level of output per worker per hour. An increase in productivity is a result in an economic growth. Another way is to look at the nation's gross domestic product, or GDP. A nation's gross domestic product is the total dollar amount of all goods and services produced by all people within the boundaries of country during 1 year. This GDP figure facilitates comparisons between the United States and other countries because it is the standard used in international guidelines for economic accounting. To make accurate comparisons of GDP figures for 2 different years, we must adjust the figures for inflation or deflation. So inflation is the general rise in the level of prices, and deflation is the general decrease in the level of prices. Real gross domestic product is the total dollar value using inflation-adjusted figures of all goods and services produced by a nation. Other important economic indicators that measure a nation's economy are its unemployment rate, its consumer price index, which actually measures the changes in the prices of a fixed basket of goods purchased by a typical consumer in an urban area, or the producer price index, which measures the prices that producers receive for their finished goods. We also need to take a look at the business cycle. So a nation's economy fluctuates rather than grows at a steady pace every year. These fluctuations are generally referred to as the business cycle. That is the reoccurrence of periods of growth and recession in a nation's economic activity. Generally, the business cycle consists of 4 states: peak or prosperity, recession, trough, and recovery or expansion. So during the peak period, the economy is at its highest point, unemployment is low, total income is relatively high, and consumers are willing to buy products and services. Businesses often expand and offer new products and services. Generally, economists define a recession as 2 or more consecutive 3-month periods of decline in a country's gross domestic product. Unemployment rises during a recession, and total buying power declines. Economists define a depression as a severe recession that lasts longer than a recession does. The third phase of a business cycle is the trough of a recession or depression, is the phase in which the nation's output and employment reach their lowest levels. To offset the effects of recession and depression, the federal government usually uses both monetary and fiscal policies. Monetary policies are the Federal Reserve's decisions that determine the size of supply of money in the nation and the level of interest rates. The government can also use fiscal policy to influence the amount of savings and expenditures by altering the tax structure and changing the level of government spending. Although the federal government collects about $3 trillion in annual revenue, the government often spends more than it receives, resulting in a federal deficit. The total of all federal deficits is called the national debt. The last economic state is recovery. And in the recovery is the movement of the economy from a depression or a recession to prosperity. A greater demand happens for products, and a greater demand of services happen as well. There are 4 basic types of competition. So business competition is essentially a rivalry or a fight among businesses for sales of potential customers. Economists recognize 4 different types or degrees of competition, ranging from ideal to complete competition to no competition at all. And these are perfect competition, monolistic competition, oligopoly competition, and a monopoly. So perfect competition is the market situation in which there are many buyers and sellers of a product, and no single buyer or seller is powerful enough to affect the price of that product. In perfect competition, buyers and sellers must accept the going price. The basics of supply and demand. So you have supply of a particular product is the quantity of the product that producers are willing to sell at each of the various prices. The demand for the particular product is the quantity that buyers are willing to purchase at these various prices. Within the perfect competition, you have equilibrium, and this is established at the market price. So under pure competition, the market price of any product is the price at which the quantity demanded is exactly equal to the quantity supplied. Market prices are affected by anything that affects supply and demand. So you saw market prices during the time of COVID be affected. I noticed it particularly in the disruption of certain supply chains. So the price of pop, for instance, kind of went sky high during COVID. I'm sure you can think of other examples too that you saw where the supply was affected, and so the price was increased because the demand actually increased. So the second type, monopolistic. So monopolistic competition is a market situation in which there are many buyers along with a relatively large number of sellers. The various products available in the market are similar to each other, and they tend to satisfy the same need. However, each seller attempts to make its products different. So product differentiation is the process of developing and promoting differences between one product and all similar products. You're gonna see this a lot in your marketing management class, because you're gonna talk about how you can differentiate your product from other people. A prime example of this is the cell phone market. So cell phones basically all work the same, but there's different types of ways that you can package your product or different apps that you can put on it. People also have brand loyalty, which comes into this particular type of competition as well. The next type of competition is a market situation or industry in which there are very few sellers. These sellers are quite large and must make sizable investments to enter their markets. Because there are few sellers, the market actions of each can have a strong effect on competitors' sales and prices. When I think about this, I think about this being the type of competition prior to streaming video, when you had certain one or two major companies that kind of controlled the cable network and availability throughout the United States. You don't see it as much now that you have streaming videos, but that would be an example of this type of economy. And then you have a monopoly. So a monopoly is a market or industry with only one seller. A firm in a monopolistic position must consider the demand for its product and set the price at the most profitable level. A natural monopoly is an industry that requires a huge investment in capital and within which any duplication of facilities would be wasteful. So many public utilities are classified as natural monopolies, but competition is increasing in these areas. You might see this when you actually see, or if your city itself provides trash service, and then you have competitors come that provide trash services as well. So usually it's seen as one of those utility type services that is generally offered by a government agency, and then increased competitions come once the lines are set, or especially when you think about like water service and stuff. So in addition to natural monopolies, another type of legal monopoly, sometimes referred to as a limited monopoly, is created when the federal government issues a copyright, patent, or trademark on something. Except for natural and limited monopolies, federal antitrust laws prohibit both monopolies and attempts to form monopolies. So now that we've kind of talked about the basics of business, I want to talk about some challenges that lie ahead for us. So when our business systems work well, it provides jobs for those who are willing to work, a standard of living that few countries can match, and many opportunities for personal advancement for those willing to work hard. But our system in the United States is far from perfect. It also gave us the Great Depression of the 1930s and the economic problems in the 1970s and then the late 1980s and the recent economic crisis. We had one in 2008, and we're actually in the midst of one right now. So the challenges to the U.S. economic system over the next decade are many, and some of the issues to be resolved include the following. How can we create a more stable economy and create more jobs for the unemployed? How do we actually reduce the national debt and still stimulate business growth? How do we restore investor confidence in our financial system? How can we use research and technology to make American workers more productive and American firms more competitive in the global marketplace? How can we preserve the benefits of competition and small business in our American economic system? How can we conserve our natural resources and sustain our environment? And how can we resolve social unrest, discrimination, and inequality in society? How can we meet the needs of low-income families, single parents, older Americans, and the less fortunate who need health care and social programs to actually exist? And how can we combat terrorism and resolve conflict with Iran, North Korea, and other countries throughout the world? The answers to these questions are anything but simple. While there have been and always will be challenges for the nation like the United States, Americans have always been able to solve many of their problems through creativity and taking risks. And that's part of what you're learning to do by getting an MBA, is learning those skill sets that will allow you to have the knowledge and the comfort level to take those risks and to be creative in meeting the needs of society. Well, I hope you enjoyed the first week's lecture. Please know that on Thursday night we are going to have a Zoom classroom that you're able to just jump in and ask any questions. If you have any questions about the content or any questions regarding any of the assignments, that is what that is there for. I hope you guys all enjoy the rest of your week. Have a wonderful rest of your day.